Joining me is the Nationals frontbencher Barnaby Joyce, the former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby, great to see you. Should Albanese and Premier Malinowskis really spend nearly $3 billion, not 2.4 as Albanese said, to not just keep the steelworks going before a sale, but to renovate it for a green steel future?
Well, let's just have a look at their form. They've never run a steelworks in the past. They quite obviously can't run one in the present. And I would be very dubious about whether they could ever run one in the future. That's just working on logic. You've got to remember that what they are doing is see, Australia, the world wants Australian steel. No, Mr. Albanese, the world wants steel, and they don't care whether it's Australian or from Guadeloupe. They really don't care. It's a global commodity. But if you make steel that is dearer than other countries' steel, they won't buy it. They'll buy the cheaper steel. And unless you want to buy dearer cars, dear listeners, you can buy dearer cars. I bet you wouldn't even buy a dearer hubcap. You get the one that is the most affordable, and that's why you need affordable steel. So let's dismiss this idea that somehow Australia is going to present the world with a dearer product that everybody wants to buy. That ain't going to happen. You're going to have cheap steel because that's how you stay in business. You keep your costs down.
Look, I just don't get it either, Barnaby, to be honest. Another thing, Barnaby, something else I don't understand, but maybe you would, because, as Deputy Prime Minister, you used to be privy to this kind of, intelligence briefings about what on earth was going on, who was trying to get us. The head of ASIO last night told us there were more plots than ever against Australia. Here he is.
In a small number of cases, we held grave fears for the life of the person being targeted. In one operation, a foreign intelligence service wanted to silence an Australian-based human rights advocate.
But Barnaby, what I don't get is, what's the point of telling us that kind of stuff and other plots when ASIO refuses to name which countries are behind the specific plots? I mean, why is it a secret when the government knows who's doing it and the government that did it knows it's done it, but we're not allowed to know?
Yeah, I must admit it is a bit perplexing when someone goes to the podium and says, I have a really grave announcement to tell you, which I can't tell you. You sort of think, well, I get it. We all get that people are trying to hack into our computers, the Chinese, the Iranians, the Russians, the North Koreans, probably other ones. We know that. We've seen that in action, and I'm sure later on you'll go on to the ships issue. But okay, we know they're there. What are we doing about it? Okay, what's happening? What's the plan that's going to keep us safe? That's what I'm really focused on.
Yeah, well, how can you prepare for a threat if you haven't been told what it is? I mean, they might want to prepare it, but you've got to maintain, get the public behind you to spend the extra dollars or whatever. And I'm not seeing us properly warned. But you mentioned the ships. Okay, I'll go there. The 3 Chinese ships, the 3 Navy ships from China, they are sailing about 150 nautical miles east of Sydney, right? They were northeast of Australia last week or so. Here's the Defence Minister.
We will be making sure that we watch every move. This is not unprecedented, but an unusual event.
Well, I don't know how much more you can do than watch, given that they're entitled to be where they are. But what do you think the Chinese ships are actually up to?
Andrew, if I was to tragically die tonight and be buried on this ridge right here, I would want my epitaph to say what I've been saying for years and years and years. We have to become as powerful as possible, as quickly as possible. Now, these three ships, these 3 naval ships, these 3 ships of the Chinese Communist Party were closer to Sydney than Newcastle. So, to the Sydney listeners, they were just off your coast, right? Now, I don't know how you intend to stop a threat like that. Maybe you could stop them with the intermittent power precincts with those wind towers. They just couldn't get to the beach. They couldn't get in because of wind towers everywhere. Or if they got closer, maybe you could squirt them with green hydrogen. I think you have to understand that the realism of the time we are in has to descend on us. We have to have this epiphany. We have to understand of the threat that's before us. Remember, the comparable power of the PLA, of the Chinese Communist Party, of their military might is vastly greater than the comparable power of Germany before the Second World War, vastly greater, okay? So we have to understand the world we live in, and we seem to be focused on a whole range of distractions.
I know.
Which are not going to scare anybody, but they're actually going to make us weaker and look foolish.
Look, if they only made us look foolish, I wouldn't mind quite so much, but they could do a lot more damage than that.